He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, slave and free, to be punctured on the right hand or forehead with the mark, the charagma. That's the Greek word for the mark, charagma. So let's talk about this. Remember, everything that we've been reading has been symbolic. It has been metaphorical. It's been a parody. You know what I'm saying? It's a motif, as Dr. Rebecca had put it in her dissertation. It's meant to parody or mimic the holy cast. Now, if you were Jewish, which we know John's immediate audience was, you would have been reminded of Deuteronomy, verse 18, chapter 11. You shall therefore place these words of mine on your heart and on your soul, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as phylacteries between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your sons, speaking of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk along the road, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. Now, this was first mentioned when they came out of Egypt, or as they were coming out of Egypt, Exodus chapter 13. It will be a sign, or as a sign to you on your hand, and as a memorial between your eyes, that the law of Yahweh may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand Yahweh brought you out of Egypt. Therefore, you shall keep this statute at its appointed time from year to year. So what we have is a contrasting between the liberty that Yahweh, this is supposed to remind them of the liberty that Yahweh brought them out of Egypt, you know what I'm saying, or gave to them by bringing them out of Egypt. Contrast with the slavery that the beast is putting the those who dwell on the earth into this slavery that he's putting them into. Now, this is actually a practice. Orthodox generally do this, you know what I'm saying? The phylactery, which is like that little vellum box or whatnot that you see on his forehead, and they wrap the little thing around their arm, or arm and hand. And notice this is the left hand, whereas the beast is like, John's like, yeah, they had to get it on their right hand. And then that little vellum box right there has the law of God, or has various scriptures and stuff like that in it. Here's another little picture. They do this when they're about to pray. You know what I'm saying? Or in prayer. Look at him. He's reading scripture. Now, I like the fact that in this panel, this charagma is being carved into the forehead of the individual, because that word charagma is like, it can also be translated branding. It's an engraving mark. You know what I'm saying? That's the word that John chose to use. So all this nonsense about the vaccine, you know what I'm saying, microchips, Elon Musk, all of that stuff, Neuralink, nah, that ain't it, y'all. That is not it. Anyways, continuing on, John says, without the mark, the name of the beast, or the cipher of his name, no one could buy, sell, or trade. Now, again, this is a stumbling block for many. People misunderstand this, or what John is drawing upon with this. The LSB says no one is able to buy or sell. If you were to do a search on that phrase using the text, searching the text, that is, you'd be taken to this section of scripture right here, Matthew 21, verse 12. And Jesus entered the temple. Okay. He entered the temple, drove out all those who were buying and selling in the temple, and overturned the tables. Y'all familiar with this story? He turned over those tables of the money changers and the seats of those who were selling doves. And he said to them, it is written, my house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a robber's den. John chapter 2, verse 13. And the Passover of the Jews was near. Jesus went up to Jerusalem. And he found in the temple those who were selling oxen and sheep and doves, and the money changers seated at their tables. Look at this. And he made a scourge of cords and drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. And he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned the table. And to those who were selling the doves, he said, take these things away. Stop making my father's house a place of business. His disciples remembered that it was written, zeal for your house will consume me. That would be these verses right here. The Jews then said to him, what sign do you show us as your authority for doing these things? Jesus answered them, destroy this sanctuary, and in 3 days I will raise it up. The Jews then said, "It took 46 years to build this sanctuary, and you will raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking about the sanctuary of his body. So when he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered that he said this, and they believed the scripture and the word which Jesus has spoken. Like, check, y'all can't miss this, y'all. Jesus versus the chief priests in the temple is like all throughout the gospels. So yes, y'all, this buying and selling that this mark allows you to do has to do with the temple, the buying and the selling that was going on in the temple, not around the entire world. Now here's wisdom. If you have spiritual understanding, then calculate the number of the beast. Notice that John expects his readers to be able to calculate the number of the beast and know exactly who the beast is. Indeed, it is the number of a man, and the number is 666. The Greek literally says hexakosioi, hexakonta, hex, 666. Now, there is a textual variant here, guys. It's right here underneath my chin. Hexakosia, deca, hex, which is 616. And this is found in P115. The other manuscripts have it like, as you see here, the individual characters in P47. Now, gematria was a common practice, especially among Jewish rabbis back in that time, even before that time. And they didn't have numbers. They like knew the Arabs invented like numerals. You know what I'm saying? As we use them today, they use the regular alphabetical letters and gave them numerical value. Now, shout out to Dr. Gentry for his work in his book, The Beast of Revelation. He lays all this out. And as you can see, he leaving the source down here as well. So if you are diligent, you can and don't believe him, you can go and look it up yourself. John said a lot of Hebrew things in this book, and when he wrote down the number of the beast, he actually used Aramaic letters. You might say why? Again, I would answer the same way I've been answering this entire study, because John's initial audience was Jewish. He's oftentimes referring back to the Jewish scriptures. I was skeptical at first. I asked the same question. How the hell John go write a whole book in Greek, but then get here and he says he writes this in Aramaic letter in numerals. But then I thought about it. This isn't the only thing in this book that he says in Aramaic. Anyways, we'll get back there though. Anyways, this how common this was back. Due to this ancient phenomena of the twofold use of alphabets, riddles employing numbers which concealed names were common. This phenomenon was called a cryptogram by modern scholars. Among the Greeks, it was called isopsiphia. Sorry, y'all, butchering that. Numerical equality is what that means. Among the Jews, it was called gematria. Archaeologists have discovered many illustrations of cryptograms as graffiti on ancient city walls that have been excavated. One example has been found in the excavations at Pompeii. There, the Greek inscription reads, Philo es arithmos phi mu epsilon, which is, I love her whose number is 545. Zahn notes of this example that the name of the lover is concealed. The beloved will know it when she recognizes her name in the sum of the numerical value of the three letters phi, mu, and epsilon. Again, the use of this by Jewish rabbis is evident. And look at all these citations down here, y'all. Anyways, Nero Caesar, right? That was the name. Here is the evidence. And guess what? It also works with the textual variant. All you got to do is take off the last N. Then it would just be Nero Caesar. Anyways, y'all, Revelation chapter 17 is going to make it blatantly obvious that Nero is the beast. The angel's literally going to tell John in the same way that the angel told Daniel, you feel me, who those kings were in Daniel chapter 11, the king of the north, the king of the south. Yeah, it's going to be on that type of level. And we're going to get more into Nero's character too. Statewide persecution of the Christians started with him. He's the one who started it. And it was unlike anything that happened afterwards. Anyways, y'all, feel free to rewatch this as many times as you need. Favorite it, share it, Put it in circulation.